Germany is the country that gave the world the highway, the aspirin, the printing press, Christmas markets, and a government department literally called the Office of Orderliness. So what happens when you take this road right here and drive straight to that country and start asking people how they make customers feel? I'm Michel Stevens, course director at CXM Academy, and customer experience is my obsession. And I have a hunch that Germany, of all places, has a few things to teach us, or at the very least, surprise us. So I called my dear friend Bram de Vos, took the car, and drove off to meet interesting people. So sit back, relax, welcome to Table 7.
It's early, the kind of early where I question my life choices. But the car is packed, the coffee is on, and Bram is ready, more or less. We're heading to Germany, Cologne first, then Munich. A long drive through a country we think we know, to talk to people who might just change our minds. The roads are quiet. Belgium is slipping away behind us.
Munich, no less. How long a drive is that?
That's 8 hours.
Right. How's your taste in music?
Jetzt kommen die lustigen Tage.
Schätze Anne.
Und dass ich es dir gleich sage, es tut mir gar nicht weh. Und
Cologne, a city defined by its cathedral, its Roman roots, and the steady grey pulse of the Rhine. It's where we find Graham Hill. He's not your typical management consultant, a PhD in plant genetics who realized 30 years ago that the intellectual grind of academia wasn't for him. The high-stakes world of global consulting were. Graham is a man of patterns. He sees the world through the lens of logic, whether he's discussing 14th century philosophy or why a specific airline's frequent flyer program is failing. He's unlike other consultants, deeply read, and possesses a mind that seems to hold a library's worth of citations ready for immediate retrieval. As we walk, we touch upon the foundation of his thinking, the Japanese concept of lean.
That whole Toyota approach that you have, it's really deeply ingrained in you, right?
Yes.
Do you find it easy to implement that in the German companies, the German context that you work for?
Surprisingly so, because for a simple reason. So when I go to work with English companies, typically, and I talk to management, and we get in the conversation, because my job is, when I work with the company, my job is to find out who's my client and what makes you successful. My job is to make you successful before I make the company successful, because you're paying my bill. Company's not paying my bill, you're facilitating things. But when I talk to people in the UK companies, typically, and I ask what they do study, very few of them studied business. Like me, I don't study business, although I've done various courses afterwards. When I go to a German company, almost everybody in business has studied Betriebswirtschaftslehre or something equivalent. They've studied sales or marketing or an MBA equivalent. So they're much more technically competent than English managers typically. Less innovative, but more technically competent. And that means they're more open to structured ways of doing things, even though a little bit alien.
But it's still structured.
Graham points out a fundamental difference in the professional DNA of the managers he meets. In the Anglo-Saxon world, people drift into management from unrelated fields. Graham himself started in plant genetics. But in Germany, business is a technical craft. Most managers here have formally studied business administration. Graham argues that while this might make them less naturally innovative, it makes them far more technically competent. We leave the peace and quiet of the Rhine behind and head back into town for a cup of coffee. In Germany, order isn't just a preference, it's a structural reality called order liberalism. There is even a literal department for orderliness here, the Ordnungsamt. In a studio with a warm cup of coffee, he deconstructs why the German machine often feels so cold to the outsider.
Well, as an Anglo-Saxon, when I think of service, then I think of the process and the human part as all as one thing. But in his textbook, that's two things. We have Dienstleistung, so providing a service, the process of providing a service.
Mhm.
But the human service was something separate.
Okay.
In German retail is driven by Dienstleistung, driven by processes. The human element is often relatively lacking. When Marks and Spencer's, the English retailer, came, I don't know if it's true or not, but the story was they needed 30 people to be floor walkers. So walk on the floor, help people, deal in German and English, certain shortaments and what have you, because it's quite an amazing place, Marks and Sparks. They had to interview 3,000 people, all of whom have got loads of qualifications about retail, to find 30 people with the relevant service customer orientation. They didn't find them, so they ended up importing English ones and who spoke a mathematic of German and training them in German. So it's easy to take an English person, train them in speak better German, and also take a German and train
That is
to be
amazing.
customer
That's
oriented.
amazing. And would you say that is still the case today? Is that has mentality changed?
To be
Has
honest,
climate changed?
To be honest, I think it is largely the same. There's very much a process orientation. I mean, when you get exceptions, when you do get it quite often, you notice it.
Mhm.
When you get exceptions elsewhere, often you don't notice it because it's fairly normal. Right. So there is bearing in mind, most of my wife's been spent either working in Germany or working in the UK, with time spent in other countries as well. There is quite a significant that service orientation is lacking in Germany still.
Oh.
I think there's a whole load of things, but obviously it's a cultural element. Another illustration of that. So when you're going for a job in the UK, then normally you have a set of references. So somebody you can contact in writing or on the telephone and ask, does this person turn up on time? What would they like to work as a colleague? None of it's sort of legally binding, but you very have to be a little bit careful what you say. Here, you don't have that. You have a stack of witnesses to your, and it's all pro forma stuff. Otherwise, you can find yourself in court for saying the wrong thing. You're not very careful. So you have a stack of witnesses from your previous employment. You don't have a few lines with some reference if you want to bother to contact them. So there's a risk aversion that comes with that. Germany a bit more orderly and a bit more process-oriented. It all comes back to, if you think about customers, we don't have real relationships with companies. Tiny percentage, less than 5%. Everything like a true relationships are built on commitment and mutual goals and shared aspirations and what have you, and trust. We have an arm's length relationship, a working relationship, if you like. Where we do have a relationship with a company is almost invariably because a person went out of their way to help you to get your job done when the rules say, no, sorry, can't help, but they helped you anyway. Then you have a relationship with a person, not with a company. This is why CRM, customer relationship management, isn't about relationships. It's not about the customer really either. It's about management. It's about data as it came about.
The funny thing is, though, that I've grown up with the idea that German is, for lack of a better word, the Heimat of innovation. I mean, a lot of good things, new things. If it was good quality, it came out of Germany, and vice versa.
I think that's true. German engineering is world class, no question about it.
The early morning sun has become too inviting to stay indoors, and we follow Graham outside on the terrace. There, the theoretical deconstruction of the German machine gives way to the practical reality of how Graham actually changes it.
We would have one-day workshops. We talk about segmentation. Somebody from the airline would talk about segmentation. We talk about jobs to be done, which I run that session all in Munich or in Frankfurt or one of the other bases that they have around Europe. And then we talk about Carter. We went to, I think, more than 400 people went through our training process over a period of time. In the end, what happens? Change of management, change of priority, program gets killed. Happens all the time.
Happens all the time.
Change of management, change of priority, old program out, new program in.
Yeah.
But we were very successful, and the people who took the training they had a network turnaround challenge where their network traffic was falling because of a variety of factors to do with green driving, government pressure not to fly, blah blah blah. So we use the same process, the same technique driven by the playbook to identify opportunities to improve the service as a factor in turning around a falling network demand. So the toolkit gets used all the time. And the aim isn't to say we have a big program, rah, 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 aren't we wonderful? The aim is to change people's mind, build tiny habits, give people tools they can use in their day and show them how to use them and support them using them back in the workplace so that it becomes part of our daily business. And I've always tried to apply that approach, and this particular airline, it worked remarkably well.
Okay. What's it like to be a CX consultant here in Germany as opposed to the other places where you worked and lived?
That's a good question, that. I think CX is different here. It's different because, right away, so first of all, it's a little bit behind. So, CX isn't really CX, when you think of service quality, there's a Scandinavian school and an American school. Very similar, but different themes in the 80s. That's kept, so we have an Anglo-Saxon school of CX, much more driven by technology, a little bit more advanced tooling, uses journey mapping longer, starting to use journey management now as the next evolution beyond journey maps and what have you, beyond CX as CX struggles in the C-suite to be taken seriously. There's nothing wrong with that. It's been tried and tested before. So I think Germany's a little bit further behind in terms of the application of latest thinking. Tooling's rather similar, less consultants. Far a very large country, but I would argue far fewer consultants. But I'd say UK, which has got a smaller economy and a smaller population, but it's relatively new. A little bit, we talked about challenges with service culture anyway, and CX is driven by, if you take a service terminology perspective and a job is to be done perspective, then it's all about the service exchange, and that's more of a difficult proposition to sell in Germany anyway. Okay. But there are some great people. Anneke Björk is somebody I talk to occasionally. She's really great. Siri Luchtinger in Austria. Mark Stickdorn, who created Smaply, is doing some amazing work. Peter Perner, and there's a great thing called the CX Trend Radar from Nils Hafner and come with the name of the other chap. Really a customer service specialist. There's probably the best European example of a capability rate. They do it every year, looking at companies and people elements, process elements, technology elements, and how things are going. Howard Han is the other one doing that. And these are really great people. They're as good as anybody in the UK and better than most people in the USA.
You mentioned the Anglo-Saxon of customer experience. What's the alternative? Is there a European equivalent?
Fundamentally, it's all about customers. Customers are largely the same. When I look at the countries I worked in, I think the last time I worked in 19 different countries around the world, customers have more in common that's not in common with each other. So if you take that as a perspective, the question then becomes, how do I approach things? Am I more technology-oriented, USA? Data-oriented, USA? Am I more human-oriented? Maybe Germany. I mean, halfway house between the two. And then we have flavors anyway. We have the Voice of the Customer School, which is there in CX today. It's all about the voice of the customer, driven by vendors, of course. We have the Journey Mapping School. As you know, I'm not a big fan of journey mapping. It's a useful tool, but it's so simplistic at a high level. It's not very useful for lots of other things, but it's easy to do. So the Anglo-Saxon, I think, is a halfway house between the USA, which is very tech and data driven, and Germany, Scandinavian countries that are more people driven. But it's small variations on a theme rather than large things.
Graham is a rare breed, a man who can navigate the cold, over-engineered complexity of German industry without losing sight of the human at the other end of the transaction. As we head toward Munich, the undisputed economic powerhouse of the country, we carry Graham's cracks in the German stereotypes with us. The machine is efficient, yes, but as Graham showed us, even the most orderly machine needs a human heart to truly serve. Graham had given us something to think about. The idea that German precision isn't coldness, that getting things right reliably every time is actually a form of respect, maybe even a form of care. It's not what we expected to hear, but then that's why you make these trips. 5 hours to Munich, Belgium well behind us, the landscape getting bigger, slower, older. We talked a lot in the car, mostly about Graham and whether we had the stereotype completely backwards all along, and a bit about everything else. By the time Munich appeared on the horizon, we were tired. The good kind of tired. The kind that comes from a long day that's already given you more than you expected. Munich, the capital of Bavaria, a city that feels different from the rest of Germany. More self-assured somehow, more at ease with its own identity. It's been sitting here at the foot of the Alps for centuries, and it knows it. Late afternoon, we meet Christian Peter. He spent years in German banking, not the easiest place to talk about customer experience. But Christian has thought a long time about what that step further actually looks like. He wrote a book about it, called It Depends on the Ends. It sounds simple, but as Christian would show us, it's the hardest thing in the world to actually do.
Christian, thank you so much for sitting down with us.
Pleasure.
It's actually a true pleasure for me as well. I'm a big fan of your book, as you know. It's really great to have you here and sit down with us. Because we are traveling through Germany and we're trying to find out if it is true that Germans are process and efficiency focused as much as the world thinks, or if it's a bit more than that, and if there's something in there that is more nuanced, actually. And so it was great to have this conversation with you. I see.
Mhm.
As I said, your book is about what is it about? So tell us a little bit about your book. It depends on the ends. What does it mean, actually?
We see in many projects that seems to be quite simple to find the right solution for a customer-focused, a customer-centered project. And in reality, I think it's a bit more complicated because you have to arrange the best combination out of analytics and human, out of personal channels and digital channels, out of probably more event-based marketing or digital marketing with a big number of customers you're addressing. And I think real good implementation projects with customer focus, they have to combine the strengths of opposites. And that's a bit more complex. The answers are not so easy, but when you really want to have a happy customer at the end and a positive economic impact for your company, I think that's the way you have to do.
Yeah. Yeah. You've worked in German banking for years. Is it very different? Is it that very different from banking in other parts of Europe? How different is it actually?
Yeah. Let's answer it. In your entry, you said Germany is quite focused on efficiency and operations. Yes, I would say on the base, the need for operational excellence is there, and that's a base for building trust. If you don't have the basics, it's very difficult to build trust and then to make follow-up business out of it. Is German, other than with Europe, probably in some little parts, but I would say that the really cultural differences would be when you go in international and out of Europe comparison to Germany. For example, in Japan, it's not used to do advertisement in online banking, for example, because of cultural habits and usage. So the German love to have operational efficiency as a base for trust. You have to solve this. Yes, that's really true. And if you don't have it, do the customer leave your company? Probably the danger is there. But on the other hand, Germans know some institutions like German Bundesbahn, where it's not about efficiency, and there's not really good service at the moment, but there's not another chance. And the Germans, compared with Switzerland, the railway is absolutely different to handle, and the customer satisfaction is far way up.
Yeah.
But why do I mention this? People get the habit, it is like it is. And when you have operational struggle in your company, but the company is needed or the products are needed, and it's a stable situation you have, people get more used that there is a missing point or something that is not ideal. And the last point I want to mention, because of the Bahn, when investments long time before were not made at the right point, problems are coming now. I want to mention it because we can transfer this to our projects and investments. When you do customer-focused projects, when you want to collect data, when you want AI projects, and all these great stuff we want to do. And when you have the wrong decisions in the past, you have a disadvantage today. And when you decide today wrong, the disadvantages you will see in the future, not today or tomorrow. And that's probably the round where we come back to the book then to see it's not so easy. Should I pay attention to today or to tomorrow?
It's easy to say we should do it with one. Say, yeah, that's easy, but reality is not like that. You have to take care of today and the day after tomorrow.
Germany has very stringent laws, especially when it comes to data protection. And my question is, how do you balance? How do you balance that with the human touch? Because the human touch, as far as I've seen it right now, there is a need to be very human in Germany as well. So how do you balance the need for that legislation and to give that a place and to comply with it on the one hand, and on the other hand, be close to your customers? How do you mix that?
At first, I want to say thank you that you say, although in Germany there is a human touch. Thank you. It's not all about efficiency and data. When I condense your question, you've made these 2 points of data protection and human. I think it is not a difference. I don't see a danger. The data protection leads us to less human, because when we see on what is important for data protection, it's not the German, it's more the European way of handling data and the community of Europe GDPR and handling it. But when you do it in a partnership way with your customers, and I mentioned before, building trust is important. When customers know on onboarding and welcome and what do we want to do when he sees advantages of using data, it's all about transparency and trust. And when you have this, you get really vast access to data, and regardless which industry we are talking about. Is it farming? Is it medicine? Is it finance? Is it e-commerce? Whatever. You have to serve advantages to your customer. And then the company is getting more like a partner to this human. And the human touch is then not only to have a physical contact point, but the digital contact points and the whole dialogue between customer and company is getting more like on the same level. There are 2 partners speaking. And when you would use data without dialogue, only by collecting buying added data, and more collecting, and knowing exactly what has done 27 hours before at 5 o'clock in the evening, this button was pressed, and you use it for many, many touch points out of it. This would be not like partnership. So I would summarize, use the possibilities of data protection to enable a dialogue, which is like one human to another, partnership dialogue.
I have a follow-up question on that, because there is in the UK, there is Boots, which is a drugstore pharmacist, and they are running an experiment with their loyalty program. They are now able to predict the likelihood of their loyalty card holders if they are likely to have cancer or not. So they are collecting that data. They are
collecting data, and they are trying to build a model, and they actually succeeded into predicting, hey, you're buying these things. That is usually a precursor for having, or there's a great likelihood that you will develop cancer in a later stage of life. So the question is, should they act on that data, yes or no? I mean, yeah, that is a more ethical question, I think, but it shows how far we can go with data. But the question is not if we can. I think the question sometimes is, should we?
It's an interesting discussion. I don't know the example exactly, and we would have to look on the numbers and details, how valuable it is, and is it scalable, and these questions. Let us discuss two different perspectives how to contact to the customer. The first is, I made a red alert, a mail, and say, oh, whoa, great danger for your future. That's a panic way. Now the other way, you could, well, you're a customer of Boots. We give you a good service. We have a broad range of products, and we know what our customers in which life situation need. We can help you. Because how about giving you hints which our data and your usage is giving to us so that you can organize you better? These would not be sales hints. Important addition. I think when you choose this approach and the customer says, yeah, yes, I want to do.
So it's more about nudging people.
Information.
Yeah, information about what is potentially.
And then you don't have this danger alert button there. Danger for your future, buy now here.
It's actually what you're saying. I mean, the word "and" is, of course, in the title of your book, right? Means to an end, means to an and. What you're advising companies to do is to be more authentic in their partnerships. The example of Boots is what triggered that in my head. Is you say, okay, the panic button, buy this now to save your life. Of course, that's an absolute unethical and disgusting route. On the other hand, you're also acknowledging that Boots has a kind of, because of their business, because of what they do, you buy products with them, they have knowledge that you yourself as a customer do not have. They have that knowledge because they can understand the pattern of your purchases vis-a-vis the pattern of the purchases of millions of others. And therefore they can say, well, maybe we have some information for you that we offer to you, like a friend would do, like a partner, like a neighbor, like somebody with experience would do. And you're suggesting, well, as a company, be that friend or be that partner or be that neighbor.
Exactly, that's the point. And you see, it's we have now in our discussions we are coming at some point to the point, let us be like a partner to the customer. And you can say, when we do it on data protection, you can do it on an interaction, you can do it on onboarding. And this advantage that a company could help the customer by their knowledge. They have a partner, and the company has more knowledge about this profession because it is the profession of this company and they know what they are talking about. To give this advantage to the customer is very fair. Exactly what you mentioned. It would be like a friendship between two people.
How does AI come into this? I mean, of course, the things that are happening at Boots, they are enabled by AI. And I'm wondering, is AI providing us with a new pivot point in personalization? Is it changing our personalization ways in a dramatic way?
That is a very interesting point because everyone is talking about personalization. Do we need it? Do we do enough? What is personalization? At first, for me, personalization is much more than having some variables which you put in an email or contact or whatever. It's about listening. It's about suppressing. It's about pause. It's about respect with data. It's about being from your communication really customer orientated for his benefits. Many other things. When do I when, why, what is the content, and so on. I would recommend Erasmus Holland about hello personalization. Really great. And how comes the AI now to this game?
Mhm.
At first, companies will see immediately that all the mistakes from the past, not right collecting data, not getting the right consent from customers, is now the disadvantage coming. The second one is AI has so many chances. And when we think about highly hyper-personalized communication to our customers, it seems to be a big chance. Is it really a chance? Does the customer want highly personalization? Where is the highly personalization that may not mean now you get an email every 5 minutes because we can personalize it, and you have every time every customer gets another product.
Mhm.
That's not personalization. That's making more noise with AI.
Yeah.
But I think AI should be used. I'm convinced AI has to be used to be as a partner in the companies in leveraging to better, more relevant. And this result can be less communication, but better.
Yeah.
And not automatically more. And when we see some use cases across industries, you see the one point we are saving money, and the other point we can do more.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waiting for the point we can do it better.
That brings me to another question I have. It is, why do you think a lot of projects fail, customer-oriented projects fail, or don't deliver the results they should be delivering?
Many projects were running really, really good. But when projects fail, I see wrong scoping at the beginning,
Yeah,
wrong expectation, and then a bad experience for the customer, or an experience which has no added value for the customer.
yeah. It reminds me of a project I was involved in, or almost involved in, because I didn't go through with it. And the scope was very simple. The question from the client was, we want to build an app where when a customer, a client of ours, it was a bank and insurer, when they are in an accident, we want to allow them or enable them to take pictures of the accident and then upload it straight away to the claim, actually. And my question to them was, yeah, okay, I understand where you're coming from. There is one big question I had. Why does that person have that app on their phone? And they said, well, that's not really relevant right now. It is absolutely relevant, because if that person doesn't have that app on their phone at the moment of the accident, then there is no point of including it in the accident. Should be doing a web app or something.
No, and having an accident is not the best situation where, let's have a look in the App Store.
Exactly.
I have the time. I have a really great place here. It's raining. Other cars are passing. And then, I have heard they have a great app. Let's do it.
Yeah. It's the other way around.
That's a good example, where when you look at isolated, or if you would present it on a conference, everyone will say, that's a clever approach. Yeah. But the real success comes only when it is integrated in the main app the customer already has, or when it is integrated in an onboarding journey, where for being our well-insured customers, we want to be at your side, in your pocket at every day and in every situation. So that is the thing we want you do. Then we have a really great partnership. And when you integrate it in this, let's configure our partnership. You can put the data issues in there, and you put in what app do you need.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Christian. It was really fun to have this conversation with you. And I think for me, I don't know about you, Bram, but for me, it really becomes clear that it's about the ends. It's all about the ends and about how things tie together. It is not as binary as we think it is, right?
No, it's not as binary as we think it is. It's really, really inspiring. It's almost for you a way of life, I think, because every time that you hear a question, you pick apart the question, you seem to find components and you combine them in a new way.
Yeah.
That's what you do, isn't it?
My brain is always connecting dots which are not fitting together at the beginning.
But they actually do when you really think about it. Yeah.
Some things you don't overthink. After a day like this, all you need is a table, a beer, and something that has been on the menu for centuries. We head to an old Bavarian place, a Brauhaus right in the heart of Munich, and we dig into the Weisswurst, Spätzle, and Franziskaner. Maybe that's also a form of customer experience. Morning in Munich. The kind of breakfast that makes you remember why you travel. Good coffee, no rush. Bram across the table, both of us still carrying yesterday's conversation. Graham in Cologne, the long drive south, Christian and his aunts. We've arrived in this city with a prejudice. We're already less sure of it. But the day ahead has something else in store. Because somewhere in Munich's English garden there is a river. And in that river, one of the most unlikely things you'll ever see in a landlocked city. No ocean, no sea for hundreds of kilometers. It has a standing wave, permanent, powerful, year-round. Surfers from all over the world come here to just ride the wave in the river. The Eisbachwelle. I've packed my wetsuit. I'm going in. We drive to the English garden, find the river, and stop. There are fences, a few people standing around, not quite sure what to do with themselves. No boards, no wetsuits, no crowd pressed up against a bank waiting for their turn. This doesn't look like a place brimming with activity. Flat water, smooth, still, not a ripple out of place. The wave is gone. We ask around, people go quiet, change the subject, they look away. Whatever happened here, nobody wants to talk about it. What we eventually piece together is this. In October 2025, the city cleaned the river. Routine maintenance, but thorough, precise, efficient, the German way. And somewhere in that process, the natural features that created the wave were removed, just like that. 60 years of surf culture gone. The surfers tried to fix it themselves. On Christmas Day, they went in and rebuilt it. 3 days later, the city took it down again. I stand there with my wetsuit under my arm and stare at the water. Bram says it best. They optimized the fun out of it. We get back into the car. If Graham challenged our prejudice, the Eisbach has just handed some of it back. Maybe Germans aren't cold, but thorough? Yes, thoroughly thorough. The question is now whether that thoroughness can also be turned towards something more human, which is exactly what brings us to the German CRM Forum, a conference with a theme that feels almost designed for this moment, customer trust strategy. We find Helmut Blocher during a break between sessions. He's been organizing this forum for 16 years, kept it deliberately small, deliberately intimate, a room where real conversations happen, not the networking theater.
Oh, yes, okay, good.
All right, Helmut, thank you. Thank you for granting me some time.
Great for having you, Michel.
It's not easy because you're a very busy man, so I will keep this really, really short. So you're doing the German CRM Forum for the 16th year.
Yeah.
Why did you start with the German CRM Forum 16 years ago?
Actually, we even did before some events on CRM, and at that time in the 20s, at the beginning of the new century, it was a new term, like, we talk about customer and relationship and so. But at that time, and to some extent, it's still true, it was a lot thought about, it is a solution, it's a technology. We can now buy this from whoever, and then it's solved. And of course, it's not the way. And we try to look at it very different from the beginning on, like strategy, like what customers do we want to address, things that came later more on the topic list.
Yeah.
And I think that was the big advantage. And at the very beginning, we also had both. We had B2C and B2B. This was something special also, I think. Yeah. And 16 years, it's unbelievable. Yeah, we still have it.
Yeah, it's great. Huh?
Yeah.
It's really so. You keep your conferences deliberately intimate. They are not of 500 or 1,000
Yes,
people.
course. Yeah.
They are smaller than that, but it is by design. This is what you chose to do.
To some extent, yes. I never wanted to make one big event because I have seen in my career that big events tend to go up and then at some point they go down and then maybe even disappear.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have some sort of portfolio of smaller events, but I never wanted to have all topics, but very special on innovation and transformation. So whatever we do has to do in the core about innovation or transformation.
Yeah. Now, what makes a good conference? Not necessarily, well, not only for CX professionals, but in general, what makes a good conference for professionals?
For me, it's a very simple thing, but very hard for many organizers to do, to bring the people to talk to each other. And not only about how is the coffee today, but really on the topic.
Yeah.
And that's what we try to support. So it's the setup already. Today we have Chapireau, so we call it here in Germany like that. So the people sit on a table together, and then we ask them some questions. Talk to somebody you don't know, very simple. And on this table, a few questions and some funny questions. What was your last picture on the phone? And then there's a new energy in this room.
Yeah.
Not only listening, I'm tired, yes, I understood, and so I can look on YouTube, whatever, but really to get into exchange in some form of structured. And then the connections and the breaks and so on, they are also better because you know people you never knew before, and getting to know them was easy. And that's what we do, what we organize and what we help the people. But it's not a big secret, but it's some sort of secret sauce.
No, it's maybe not a big secret, but it's really what it's all about. It's making about connections. And whenever I walk around here in the evening or during the day, it's easy to get to talk to people. You obviously
even in Germany,
you have a common ground, obviously, because it's a very narrow focus every time. But people are very approachable. I mean,
and everybody who is in this room, who is delegate, could be on the stage also. They are all experts.
Yeah.
So I don't want this separation. And on the other hand, I really appreciate when the speakers are here all 2 days.
Yeah.
Like you.
Yeah.
Even if you don't have a talk, you are here. That's great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really, thank you. I really appreciate the time, and
great to know you.
Good luck with the conference.
Thank you.
Good luck with the conference.
Thank you
so much.
Great you are here. Yeah.
Francis, you just came off stage. You did a keynote, which I thought really was brilliant. Could you summarize what it was really about?
Yeah. So what I was talking about today was primarily about regaining closeness to customers that we don't really get through surveys. So surveys are great, right? I've got nothing against surveys as the foundation, if you like, of a voice of customer program. But there's so much more we can be doing. And the thing I focused on today, I mean, I hesitated to stand up and talk about actually bringing in other data sources, for example, contact center, social media, reviews, that sort of thing. I chose not to talk about that because I think what's more important right now for a lot of companies is, to rebuild actual customer closeness, get into real dialogue, real conversations, get into, conversations with customers that give you the depth that we need or that we're missing, the context, the nuance, the emotion around, giving you the why behind the what that we see in the dashboards. And I think for me at the moment, that's the topic that I thought was most important to bring here today, because at the end of the day, it's about making sure people feel that they sort of care enough and believe that there's genuinely a problem to fix, and we should go away and fix it now. And I think if you've got, real customers in front of you, you've got the stories, you've heard them, from phone calls they've dialed in with, or you've met them in person, you've gone out in store and chatted to them, it makes it so much more real.
Yeah.
And it's that reality, I think, that we need to to make sure our programs are grounded in that reality before, then we use the survey to sort of give it the quantitative and other data sources to give it the quantitative weight that it gets.
The keynote was also about listening, learning, understanding. But in your opinion, what are companies in Germany or it's broader doing wrong? What are the things that they're focusing on that they shouldn't be focusing on?
Wow, this is interesting, whether it's German specific. I think in general, we're hearing that a lot of companies are focusing on measurement and score. I was actually really pleased to bring a couple of examples from Germany, companies that are going beyond that. And I think particularly this idea of the customer advisory board. I mean, I brought an example from Cologne, who have nailed the concept of running a customer advisory board, I think, really, really making really good use of it. And actually, I think there are a lot of companies in Germany doing that. Deutsche Bahn, again, I alluded to, they've been actually running a customer advisory board for, I think, 20 years or something like this. So I think there is actually a lot of good work going on. But of course, when you talk to companies who've just started their Voice of Customer program, normally the first thing they're doing is saying, okay, we need to set up surveys. And that's it. And that's where people are starting, and they're immediately sort of leaping in with surveys before maybe doing, looking at what other data sources they have at their disposal, contact center, emails, reviews, etc., social media, but also just saying, well, let's go out and maybe do some more qualitative stuff first before we then go and work out, where we need to add these additional listening posts.
Yeah. You are a Brit living in Germany for quite a while by now.
Yeah.
What is different about customer experience here or voice of customer here in Germany?
Well, it's interesting. So I think customer experience in general, there's a big focus here, and it's today's theme at the conference is trust. There's a very strong focus, I think I notice as a consumer, on things like data privacy and data protection, and being very respectful of people's, what we're doing with people's data. And I think there's a really big emphasis on that. I think that's noticeable in all interactions you have with a company. One of the first things you'll sign is a Datenschutzerklärung. That you understand how your data can be processed. And I just think that's really key. I think customer experience in general, this idea of trust, it underpins a lot of that. I think that is a more typically German thing than we see in the UK.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you so much, Francis. And congratulations once more on your keynotes. Really love this. It's a wrap.
Bye.
After a day at a conference in Munich, full of conversations about trust, systems, automation, and the human side of customer experience, we get back in the car and head even further south. And at this point, it starts to feel like the journey is changing again. We are leaving the meeting rooms behind, heading towards the Alps, towards a very different backdrop, and maybe towards a very different side of Germany as well. The further south we drive, the more the landscape starts doing some of the talking for us. The mountains come into view. The air feels different. The whole journey slows down a little. Up until now, Germany has challenged our assumptions through people and ideas. But here in the south, it starts to do it through the atmosphere as well. And then rising up, we see it, the Olympia Schanze. One of those places that immediately makes you look up and wonder why any human being would decide this is a good idea. Ski jumping has been a part of this landscape for over a century. What started as a local tradition became a global sport, and this particular hill, has seen some of the greatest jumps ever made. It is part technique, part nerve, part elegance, and part accepting that gravity is not really on your side. Standing there with the Alps all around us, you can feel how deeply sport, place, and tradition are tied together in this part of Germany. It is dramatic, precise, disciplined, and a little bit mad. which, to be fair, is not a bad summary of what we've been discovering all trip. After staring at a giant ski jump for long enough, we do what any sensible travelers would do. We stop for cake. At the Olympia Raststätte, everything feels traditional, unhurried, and wonderfully unpretentious. Homemade cake, strong coffee, friendly people. The kind of place that makes you want to stay longer than we planned, which is exactly what we did. And it is here, in a roadside stop over coffee and cake, that Bram and I really start to feel how incomplete our first impression of Germany was. We came looking for efficiency, structure, maybe even a certain coldness. But the deeper we travel into this country, the more color we find, more softness, more warmth, more character. It is not that the stereotype is entirely false. It is that it leaves far too much out.
Unser Leben, wir versuchen die Sonne zu bringen, unser Leben zählt. Bring die Sonne, im Morgenlicht stehend, wir werden hier wieder eine Nacht erleben, zusammen. Wir scheinen den Wolken hinterher zu jagen, wir werden sie nie in unseren Händen halten, wir sind so weit weg. Wir jagen vielen Träumen hinterher, manchmal frage ich mich, wohin ich gehe, wo gehe ich hin? Ich versuche dich zu erreichen, wo bist du hin? Was wird aus uns? Ich weiß es nicht. Unser Leben, wir versuchen es.
We leave Garmisch-Partenkirchen behind and continue south towards our final appointment of the trip. Mittenwald is the kind of place that doesn't try too hard. It is just what it is. And what it is quietly wonderful. The mountains pressing close, the streets are unhurried, and the people are open, warm, and clearly proud of where they live. Over a beer in a town we weren't even supposed to stop in, looking back on the road we have traveled, it becomes harder and harder to hold on to the version of Germany we arrived with. Especially here in Bavaria, there is a friendliness and a generosity that does not fit the old cliché at all. Or maybe the real lesson is simpler than that. Maybe Germans can be structured and warm at the same time. By now, that answer is starting to feel very close to the truth. Of course, before we get to philosophy, we have to get to our final destination first. And that turns out to be slightly more difficult than expected. Where are we?
I haven't got the faintest. I have a kind of a David Lynch kind of Twin Peaks eerie feeling at this moment.
Is number 2.
Ladies and gentlemen, if this is the last footage that you ever see of us, something has gone wrong in Mittenwald. All attempts to rescue us come too late.
This was number 2. This is number 1.
Okay.
So this should be 1. Eventually we find a place. And waiting for us there is Thomas Post, German champion in Fingerhäkeln. Finger wrestling. Fingerhäkeln is exactly what it sounds like.
So, Fingerhäkeln comes from the Alpine region, from the woodcutters, they say. It's been around for ages. And yeah, if there were disputes in the past, they didn't immediately resort to fighting, but instead the opponent settled it with their middle fingers alone, and the stronger one won and was then basically the one who was in the right. Yes. And the big championships, there used to be Munich championships and so on. and NES, and then the regional association was founded in the 1950s, and then came the Bavarian Championship, followed by the German and Alpine Championships, and now it is held in the Alpine region. And nowadays there are these leather straps that you see, and then the opponent has to hook in with the middle finger, both in the same direction. And then there are the boundary lines on the left and right of the table, and the center line. And then there's a referee who gives the command, both hooks ready, pull. And at pull, you have to make sure that both feet are on the cushion and pull the other person across the table as quickly as possible.
So how old is the tradition and where does it come from?
Yes, that is not exactly known. It is somewhat passed down, but it has existed, yes, for centuries, and specifically professionally since the 1950s it is.
And so how did you start with finger hackling yourself?
Yes, for me it was like this. My grandpa already did finger wrestling. He is a founding member of the finger wrestling club in Mittenwald. And then my father did finger wrestling. He was also chairman for 10 years, and that's how I actually grew up with it.
Okay.
At the beginning, my father actually didn't want me to do it. I started to enjoy it more and more, and that's how I got into it myself. And then, yes, when I was 3 years old, I did finger wrestling for the first time. There was a small championship from the club in our town, and that's when I did finger wrestling for the first time. Yes, for me it is very special because it exists more or less only in the Alpine region. There are a few in Germany or elsewhere, but let's say it is done so extremely or professionally only with us. And yes, it's nice because you see the different clubs only about 5 times a year or so. The camaraderie means a lot, which is nice. And there's a certain ambition when you've been on par with someone for a long time. Sometimes one is better. Sometimes the other is better. That creates a certain ambition again. Then you train more to be stronger next time.
Of course, we needed to try it.
So my hand, where is my hand? Like this,
Yes.
like this?
Best like this, either like this or like that, depending on how much strength you have. Yes. Okay.
Okay.
Oil, Murphy.
Ja. Hey. Super. Vielen Dank. Goodness. Vielen Dank.
When we started this trip, we came with a simple question. Are Germans really efficient but cold? By the end of it, that question feels far too simple. Yes, we found precision. We found systems, structure, and a deep respect for doing things properly. But we also found warmth, humor, generosity, pride, and a strong sense of community. In Cologne, in Munich, at the conference, the roadside stops, and here in Bavaria, beneath the Alps, Germany kept showing us the same thing in different ways. It is not either or. It is both. Precision and warmth, reliability and humanity, tradition and change. And maybe that is true of customer experience as well. The best customer experiences are not built by choosing between efficiency and emotion. They are built by finding a way to hold on to both. That, in the end, might be what Germany has been trying to tell us all along.
Die Sonne bringt unser Lebensheld. Bring die Sonne. Im Morgen